What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImmaCSports.
Instagram is also at ImmaCSports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 250 episodes, Kyle. We've made it, and there's a bunch of really cool stuff to talk about. We know our NBA champions, the OKC Thunder, and that's still somehow maybe not the most important thing that's happened to the NBA over the past week. So we'll make sure to talk about all the trades that went down.
Yeah, it's going to be a crossing our T's and dotting our I's episode. It feels like we're going over a whole bunch of different things, whether it's the NBA draft, the MLB draft, or some of the repercussions that we're going to see from the Thunder winning the NBA Finals. This Kevin Durant trade that we got earlier in the week as well, too. We'll jump right into it. Our openers kind of relate to each other. I like your little note that you put on here, but I'll let you go ahead and get started with yours because mine kind of takes off of yours.
Yeah, with the NBA season winding down, this is the exciting stuff. This is when all the GMs try to play hero, flip all their bad contracts, try to make something out of it. And we've had a couple of trades over the past couple of days to go through. We're going to save the big one, Kevin Durant, for the middle of the show. But how about we talk about some of the others? Drew Holiday getting sent to Portland. Portland's going to eat most of that contract. There's about 3 years, $100 million left. And Anthony Simons goes to Boston. So I'm excited for Anthony Simons. He's in a system where he just gets to chuck up threes all day long, maybe take over that Peyton Pritchard spot. Interesting for him. Drew, on the other hand, kind of turned out to not really need him anymore, even though he was a big piece of that championship team. So we'll see if he gets flipped again. The other move, which was crazy because I was just taking notes about this potentially happening, Jordan Poole is on the move from Washington. He's, I guess, earned his right to play for a better team now. He's done his work on the Wizards, a terrible team, getting his shots up, getting his confidence back. He's going to New Orleans for CJ McCollum. We'll see if that whole Poole Zion thing can work together. And they're both kind of on the same page here, like on the brink of being a castaway. And you just got to make a name for yourself and get paid, win some games. So those two trades were pretty big this week, and that's why I'm excited for the offseason, even though the MLB has kind of taken over, Kyle.
Yeah, and of course, NBA offseason is always super interesting. Shams, I think, said even this offseason particularly is going to be ridiculously crazy because of some of the payroll stuff going on across the league, the second apron, all that stuff. The teams are getting ready to have to deal with all that and the new luxury taxes and all that stuff going on there. But my opener is the MLB takes center stage. Obviously, the NBA offseason is interesting. NFL training camps, once we get later into summer, we'll get, storylines of that. But as far as games being played in the major sports leagues across America, the MLB is taking center stage. And it's a great season for the MLB to do that. There's a ton of different interesting races within the league. 5 out of the 6 divisions are within 5 games. We have a very fun and unique AL MVP race going on right now. Cal Raleigh leads the league in homers as a catcher, switch hitting 6'8", 270-pound dude, just a complete anomaly. And the guy he's going up against, Aaron Judge, perhaps having one of the best offensive seasons we've ever seen in all of baseball. The NL side, maybe a bit less exciting, but still crazy candidates over there with PCA, Shohei Ohtani, of course, and some other guys pulling in there as well, too. Great pitching matchups throughout the league. Especially tomorrow, we get one. Jacob Mizorowski versus Paul Skeens is going to be a fun one. Might talk about that matchup a little bit more later on in our episode. But just a good time for the MLB to take center stage as far as games being played and have a good summer. Of course, as well, too, the WNBA going on. Caitlin Clark's lit up that league. So no shade to them. Of course, they've been ramping up views and stuff for the past 5-6 years at this point. But I think the MLB is ready to take the forefront of the media in the next couple of months to the national stage. That's something that I always enjoy.
A couple crazy races to the first place will help with that.
Of course. Now moving into our player, pitcher, rookie, and the week as we always do. Start off with the player of the week. Skyler, who did you choose here? A bunch of different candidates went off this week.
Exactly what I wrote. So many guys absolutely went off this week, from James Wood to Ronald Acuna coming back from injury, Eugenio Suarez. But no one's having quite the season of Cal Raleigh, like you mentioned. I think some of those Johnny Bench records, I thought they were untouchable. But Raleigh's on pace to shatter everything this year. Another 10 hits, 8 ribbies, and 5 more homers this week has him sitting atop baseball with 32 deep flies.
Yeah, Cal Raleigh's also going to be my player of the week. Like you said, 5 homers, 8 RBIs, 3 walks in there as well, too. And a stolen base, something he's actually done quite a bit this year. His swiping bags. OPS just under 1,700. The switch hitting catcher that really abused the wind heading out in Wrigley over this past weekend, and then got in another homer in Minnesota yesterday night. Now on to pitcher of the week. Pitcher of the week, maybe not our best week as far as the options that we have to choose. Maybe that's because of so many different guys going off on the offensive side of the ball. Who do you choose for your pitcher of the week?
The tiebreaker for me usually goes to the toughest matchup. So I'm going to go with Jesus Luzardo, 6 2/3 shut against the Mets. And this game has Philly sitting in first place over the Mets now. Luzardo only gives up 3 hits, 1 walk, so looks like it's a perfect time to get back on track. Hopefully Luzardo's over that last rough month.
Yeah, Luzardo's a great choice. Obviously, Sunday Night Baseball is a big thing as well, too. As we are getting some breaking news in the NBA, actually, from Shams. I want to talk about this first. First, quick reaction. Boston, Atlanta, and Brooklyn are finalizing a 3-team deal that sends Kristaps Porzingis to the Hawks. Terrence Mann and Atlanta's number 22 pick goes to the Nets, and Georges Niang and a second rounder to the Celtics.
That's a total cap dump.
Yeah, it seems like a cap dump. Shams was talking about how if Kristaps Porzingis gets moved, a possible guy to replace that would be John Collins from Utah. But yeah, Boston on the move. We said last night as well too. Shams said that probably wasn't going to be done when it comes to making moves for the Celtics, and now they move on from Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, I love Kristaps, but when you're not available in a big playoff series, that's a problem, and they're not going to wait around for him anymore.
Yeah, so we'll see how that news develops as we go out throughout the show. But I'll get back to my pitcher of the week.
Yeah.
Jesus Luzardo, great choice. Like I said, one of his best starts this whole year with the Phillies. But I went with Luis Ortiz of the Cleveland Guardians and his dominant start against the A's over the weekend. He went 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 10 strikeouts. In Sacramento, not an easy place to pitch, as we've seen, except for when you're a Guardians starting pitcher. It just works against the A's for some reason. Now on to Rookie of the Week.
Yeah, our guy Nick Kurtz is still on one, but I think Jacob Mizorowski deserves it this week. We've seen some impressive rookies during the StatCast era, but to start your career with 11 no-hit innings while throwing pitches no one's seen since 1920, it's almost unbelievable that, you know, if we hadn't seen Paul Skeens, what we're seeing right now. Again, into the 6th inning against Minnesota, just 1 career hit allowed. It was the homer, but he still gets the win.
Yeah, I held off on Mizorowski. I think he'll get his fair share of these awards, but I did go with Nick Kurtz for my Rookie of the Week for back-to-back weeks. 6 for 19, a double, 3 homers, one of them being a walk-off shot against Josh Hader to dead center, which means something, of course. 6 RBIs, 2 walks, OPS over 1,200. What a stud, man. No shade to Mizorowski as well, too. He'll definitely win this award at some point, but when Nick Kurtz is doing what he's doing, I think he deserves to get this. Now we move into the winners and losers of a couple of different things. We have 2 things to talk about. Starting off with the Kevin Durant trade. Pretty ridiculous for KD. Goes to the Suns, or not the Suns, he's on the Suns. Goes to the Rockets. Going back is Jalen Green and a couple other players as well, too, including Dylan Brooks. The winners and the losers together, who do you have as your winners for this trade?
Yeah, the first winner I thought of was all of the young Houston players. This is one of the youngest teams in the league, and now they're bringing in an all-time great for mentorship. Another winner is going to be Houston GM, Raphael Stone. They got their guy, and they didn't trade Jabari Smith or Tari Eason, so they don't have to worry about getting any more power forwards or small ball lineup stuff if KD's not going to play center, of course. So you got more ammo to go after another star. I also have 2 more big winners for Houston, Cam Whitmore and Reed Shepherd. They finally get some minutes with some of those shooting guards off of the roster. Phoenix does have some winners too, though. The Suns fans that want to get younger are going to be able to now. They trade up from 29 to 10 in a loaded draft class, so maybe they can find that Nick Richards replacement. And right now, I'm going to say that Jalen Green is a winner too. I think he's going to be one of those guys that needs a couple years on a bad team, find confidence in his shot. This kid went number 2 for a reason. And here is where I originally had a note. Maybe they could bring in Jordan Poole too, but because I thought his time in Washington was about done. That will not happen. He's going to Charlotte. Those are my winners. New Orleans, excuse me, not Charlotte.
Well, hopefully that got everything you said. And I'll get into my winners of this trade. The first, of course, starts with the Rockets. I mean, that's pretty easy to say. This definitely puts them in that championship contender spot. But something you said I really liked as well, too. They didn't have to trade Jabari Smith Jr. They didn't have to get rid of Sengun. They didn't have to get rid of other pieces like Fred VanVleet, who's been a valuable piece on a championship winner before. They get rid of Jalen Green, who, I mean, if you saw the Warriors series this past year, he had one game with more than 10 points. So, they didn't really have to give up much, and they got one of the greatest players that we've ever seen, most prolific scorer that we've ever seen, in Kevin Durant. And then the other winner, I think, goes to KD and his hope to prove that he doesn't need Steph to win a ring. We know that's kind of been something that KD cares about, whether he admits it or not. We see it through Twitter interactions and stuff like that. He's always been someone who definitely cares about his I don't know how to describe it, but the thoughts around him. I wouldn't say connotation, but cares about what other people are feeling about him. And if he wins a ring with the Rockets, probably end up being Finals MVP if that were to happen. Then he would definitely go down as a better player than what he is going down as right now. On the loser side, I guess you could start with Thunder possible dynasty question mark. This is now probably the hardest team for the Thunder to compete against. The Rockets won 54 games last year, got second in the West, and had some dysfunctional parts on their team throughout the season. Now they get a guy who's going to give them 25 points a game, pretty much guaranteed. Pretty efficient shooting as well, too. Sengun, I expect to get better. Jabari Smith, I definitely expect to get better on both sides of the ball. Thompson as well, too. So when you're the Thunder, I definitely think that that's a spot that you maybe don't match up well as you did before, and that can hurt your chance to win multiple rings. And then the last one, Devin Booker and his lifetime on the Suns. I think his whole thing is that he wanted to win a ring in Phoenix, to be one of those dudes who stays loyal and finally gets his ring in the place that he started. Now that seems damn near impossible. Does he request a trade? I don't know. I think he should probably, to get out of there and maybe go to a place, I don't even know, but a place that he can actually go win a ring. Maybe it is OKC. That'd be interesting if that were to happen. But yeah, I think Devin Booker's time in Phoenix is definitely coming to a close here soon.
Yeah. How about KD's knees? KD's knees are a big loser. With Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks gone, this guy's one of the few shot creators left. Can he play 60 games again?
That's true. Did you end up doing your losers?
I didn't.
Okay, well, I'll let you go ahead and into your. Yeah.
All right. The other side of this is basically just Devin Booker. Like you said, no one's really sure if Jalen Green's even going to stay here yet. They're talking about a future without Bradley Beal, too, and nothing about competing. That's for sure. Out of everything we've heard, I'm sure Dylan Brooks has got to be frustrated. He's used to playing spoiler, actually in the top 8 seeds. Now he's going to be outside looking in. That'll be something to watch.
Yeah. So next up, it's happening on the same day as this KD trade. Of course, the Thunder win the finals. The winners and losers of that. And it's not okay, well, obviously the Thunder are the winners and the Pacers are the losers. But there's some other things that this can affect. Whether that be resumes, whether that be just long-term thoughts around certain players and comparisons. What do you think? What are the winners of the Thunder winning the finals?
The fans of the dynasty are big winners here because these guys are as set as you can be. Hundreds of first-round picks, no bad contracts, and a really young core. So if you like seeing dominance for more than 3 years in a row, these guys got a pretty good chance. Eastern Conference risers, too, like Cleveland, Orlando, Detroit, with the inevitable struggles coming from Indiana, Boston, and Milwaukee, the East is completely wide open once again. And I'm going to say Sam Presti, too. They actually did it now. It's not hypothetical. They have their winning formula, and they may even start using some of those picks.
Yeah. Winners, I'll start off with J-Dub, Jalen Williams. He becomes a very legitimate star, co-star to win a finals in one of the best series that we've seen him play in his young career. I think he definitely gets to the point now where it's like, okay, he's no longer just a second option. He's a co-star. He's the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Maybe not as good as either of those players, but definitely a respectable name when it comes to it, and could be an all-star pretty much year in, year out now at this point. SGA joins a very rare group of superstars to win Finals MVP, NBA MVP in the same season, or just MVP and winning the Finals in the same season as well too. But I think he really only joins like LeBron and
Shaq and Jordan and Kareem.
Yeah, as far as winning Finals MVP and the normal MVP in the same season, that doesn't happen much. And Steph didn't even do it. Obviously, Steph only has the one Finals MVP, multiple-time MVP, but still, to do it in the same season is really rare. And SGA joining that group, I think as of right now, can kind of look like the fish out of the water, when it comes to that group. But once we get 3-4 years down the line, and maybe the Thunder have 4 rings and SGA's got 4 Finals MVPs or 3, like you're like, oh shit, like this guy is very much legitimately going to be one of the best players of all time when it comes down to it. Sam Presti now looks like a genius. Before he looked like the mad scientist who was just like, what is he cooking in there with his 30 million first round picks? Now he's still got them. He's got an NBA Finals, not just contender, but winner on the court. With money to move around, picks to move around if they wanted to. They're very prepared for any scenario. If it happens to be beginning of next year, Jalen Williams tears his ACL, God forbid, they have the ability to move around picks and go get a player that makes it so that Thunder team could still win, even with a big player going down with injury. And the last winner, small little one, AJ Mitchell, UCSB alum, gets a ring in his rookie year. So that was kind of cool to see get on the court and playing some minutes, even though he got the ball with 18 seconds to go and lost it within a second and then turned it over and Pacers got a bucket off of it. But still a cool thing with UCSB getting it right. Mm-hmm. Now on to the losers.
Yeah, my first loser is going to be Western Conference teams that are looking for that one last big run. Lakers, Warriors, Clippers. We've seen even teams with home court advantage struggle on this side of the bracket, and it's only going to get more difficult with younger teams going after OKC now, too. One that we talked about a little yesterday, KD, Westbrook, and Harden. It's not all their fault, but they're going to have a little asterisk next to their resume that says, I couldn't get it done in OKC, and these young guys were able to. The next one, Seattle Supersonics fans. Shout out Dilly. But before this ring, the only other thing this franchise did was 1979 in Seattle. So unless they get an expansion team, the legacy of Seattle basketball is going to keep on slowly dying. And the last one, all of the future legends playing their best basketball during this era, because the ones who end up without a ring because they had to go through OKC are going to, again, maybe have an asterisk next to their resume saying, man, I couldn't get it done in this era.
Yeah. One more winner that I forgot to mention before I get into the losers, Ian, our friend, definitely is a big winner here.
I forgot to text him.
We've definitely been clowning him, or I wouldn't say clowning him, but teasing him over time as the Thunder and Warriors have matched up in previous seasons. Obviously, Warriors have 4 rings in the past 4 years. Ian's probably thinking to himself, "Oh shit, I might get my get back here very soon on these guys," and that's got to be a good feeling for him. But the losers start off with every other team in the NBA, specifically in the Western Conference. It's going to be tough to get past the Thunder now. Not even just in the sense of how good the team is, but now that they've won, they know the experience of winning, they know the grind that it takes. I know it's extremely hard to go back to back in the NBA because of the very short offseason that the Thunder are going to have to deal with now. Now they, play in 4 months. But if any team can do it since they're young, it's the Thunder. And I think they have the ability to add depth and stuff to be okay in the early part of the season where they're managing minutes and stuff, and still be able to be a 1 or 2 seed unless they see some crazy injury. So watch out, NBA. It's going to be really tough. Along with that, kind of, I guess the second tier of that is the parity in the NBA. RIP to that if the Thunder go on a run here, because the whole, second apron, third apron, whatever it was that they tried to install a couple years ago to make sure that you can't have all these max contracts all in your team. So what now? Like, the Thunder can just rotate players in every couple of years if they want with these picks. They're set up super well in the future, and that we could very legitimately see, a Warriors type dynasty run with the Thunder. And I don't think the NBA wanted that, which was part of the reasoning on why they added all these cap rules. And the last one, I like that you mentioned it as well too, KD, Harden, and Westbrook. Obviously, I think Westbrook has a bit of a different connotation to him than KD and James Harden do, especially in OKC, because he wasn't the guy that left under those crazy terms. Harden, obviously, a bit less than KD, but I think Westbrook's still very much beloved. But when you look at that trio, that was the Thunder team that was the best team of all time in OKC. Now they moved to second. Next year they can move to third. The year after that they can move to fourth. Like, it's very possible that this team slides down the ranks of OKC's greats for a while. Lastly, I don't really know how to weigh this one, so I didn't really put it winners or losers. Nick Collison, he got a shout out today in the parade. I saw his Aaron Wiggins, and he was there in the Thunder Arena before the outside parade part actually started. But it's very funny when an NBA championship team has one former player to shout out, and it is Nick Collison, because he was never an all-star, never, really that good of a player, never a star in the league, but was just got his number retired because of longevity. I think it's a very interesting moment, and yeah, I mean, it's a big moment in the NBA for this team to win this young, and definitely changes how things can look over the next 5 years in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Now we move on, though. College World Series was this past weekend. We're not doing the winners and losers of the College World Series turnout, with LSU winning, except for maybe Coastal Carolina's head coach is the big loser, and the Empires for sure. But we're doing a post-College World Series mock draft. I don't think we've done a legitimate mock draft in the MLB before on the show.
No.
We're only doing top 15 picks, because once we get past there, that's where things get really wonky in the MLB. But we'll start off with number 1, the Washington Nationals on the clock. A couple different choices that they can go with here. Who do you have them end up choosing?
Yeah, I'm going with Ethan Holiday, shortstop out of Stillwater, Oklahoma. This just feels like the kind of prospect you don't mess around with. There's always a risk with high school players, but his swing reminds me a lot of Jackson Merrill. So I personally would take that risk with number 1.
Yeah, number 1, or high school players in general, are interesting, especially from our perspective, because we don't really get to see them at all and their numbers until we see them at the combine. And then from there, it's a bit interesting. But obviously, scouts have seen them for years. I do have the Nationals. I'm still going Ethan Holiday, and it feels like a guy who is a bit more sure than these other high school guys, partially because of the pedigree. Jackson Holiday just a couple years ago went number 1. Obviously, Matt Holiday, his father was in the big leagues for a long time. And I think when you have that, 1, support system mentally, and 2, that proven pedigree of, this guy's training has worked, because his brother is just a few years older than him, has made it work already for him in the big leagues. And Ethan Holiday, as it goes, looks like the guy who's the better player. Mm-hmm. In the long scheme of things, he got the better MLB build, 6'4", 210, more power than Jackson, and still seems to be pretty similar guy when it comes to the run, arm, field tools, and all of it. Will he be a shortstop? I don't know. Maybe he becomes a third baseman. But I like Ethan Holiday going number 1. I think the bat, the power is a fun one to look at. Number 2.
At number 2, it's the Angels, and Cade Anderson, the lefty from LSU, is perfect for these guys. We have talked before about how if he actually does go number 2 to the Angels, he might not actually go to the minor leagues if the Angels take him. A filthy college lefty, already has 4 pitches. That changeup's ridiculous. I wouldn't be surprised if it's graded 65 next week when they re-rank everybody, or next month, excuse me. The draft is after the All-Star break now, I forgot. But in a month, when they regrade him, maybe 65 grade changeup as a 3rd pitch. That's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, I also have Kid Anderson going number 2 to the Angels. Like we talked about yesterday, like this guy can go right into the big leagues and have it make like somewhat sense. Will it happen? Should it happen? Probably not. Like it's not the right way to go about this after a guy who's thrown a ton of innings in the college season, only 20 years old. You're gonna want to slow him down. But if the Angels are anywhere close to a playoff race, he's going to be up there. Like he's going to be pitching in September for them. You talked about this yesterday. I like the comp. The Max Fried thing is interesting. He's not, a guy who's going to touch 98, 99, but the fastball's solid. He throws 3 solid off-speed pitches as well, too, with the curveball, slider, and changeup. Got good control and good feel for all those pitches as well, too. Obviously coming from the left side. I think he's not a Skeens. I don't even think he's maybe even like a Chase Burns, but I think he's definitely a very solid borderline ace pretty much immediately for the Angels. Number 3.
At number 3, it's Seattle, and I'm going to go Seth Hernandez, the high school righty out of Corona, California. I've seen a lot of mock drafts with college bats here, but you know what, Kyle? That doesn't really fit their MO, does it? I think the M's are going to look real hard at Seth Hernandez and think, hey, man, we rarely pick in the top 3. And if we play our cards right, we could have the next Hunter Green, Dylan Cease, whatever risky high school pitcher it is during that year. They can find bats elsewhere. Do they really want to, though? So that's why I have Seth Hernandez. They may not care.
Yeah. Number 3 for Seattle, I also have him going Seth Hernandez. Yeah. Something that reminds me a lot of is Brian Wu. I think the arm, the slot, the deliveries is kind of similar to Brian Wu. It's a very active arm. And we saw them take Brian Wu, who had a very shitty college career in like the 6th round a couple years ago out of Cal Poly, and he's turned into a borderline ace for the Mariners. Seth Hernandez is a top-of-the-line prospect who's got a fun fastball, potentially 2 or 3 really good off-speed pitches with his curveball changeup, and then the slider sometimes as well, too. Maybe control's not exactly where you would like it for that, but he's only 18 years old. There's also no rush for him to get in the big leagues with this current starting staff that they have right now. This could be a guy that doesn't come up until we see like a George Kirby hit free agency or Logan Gilbert, get a couple more years down the line. And Seth Hernandez seems like an arm that the Seattle Mariners would love. And while they might have needs elsewhere, we know the MLB draft doesn't really work like that, but maybe, a desire to go somewhere else because of need. I think the arm is too fun and too interesting for them to pass up on.
100% agree.
On to number 4.
At 4, it's the Rockies, and I'm going to go Jamie Arnold, the lefty out of Arizona, Florida State. Excuse me, I had DJ on the brain. Another pitching experiment for Colorado. To be fair to Jamie Arnold, though, the old school 3/4 slot slider is one of the few pitches that actually works in Colorado. And I see a lot of Mackenzie Gore if he keeps the velo up. I think if you're Colorado, you keep trying, man. Dolander's already up. We'll see if he gets any better. It's a tall order to ask, though, for a top 5 pick again to go to Colorado.
Quick update for Chase Burns, MLB debut. Strikes out Trent Grisham on 4 pitches, ends him off with a nasty back foot slider for his first career strikeout. But my number 4 pick for the Colorado Rockies, we'll talk about the franchise here first. We know that they're pretty much the farthest behind in terms of analytics. I think as of 2020, they only had 1 person in their analytical department. And I think that can make them be in a pretty interesting spot. So I had them going Eli Willits. Now, that's no shot against Willits being a guy, but when you look at the grades, it doesn't really seem like most teams would be entertaining a 17-year-old who's only got a 45 hit tool or 45 power tool and doesn't really stand out pretty much anywhere. But I think the Rockies can be the team that looks at him and says, "Oh yeah, we'll take a shot on a 17-year-old. Sounds fun. Like, why not? Let's go ahead and do it." I think he could still be a stud. Obviously, has a ton of room to grow at 17 years old. He's probably going to put on a couple inches as well too. It's 6'1" right now. Probably could end up being 6'3", whatever it may be. Committed to Oklahoma, switch hitting bat. But I think the Rockies are a team that would take a risk on a guy like this for no reason except for just wanting to have a super young shortstop. Number 5.
At number 5, it's St. Louis, and I'm going to go with Billy Carlson, shortstop from Corona, California, same school as Seth Hernandez, because this was the most interesting high school player to me. It was hard to find somebody that doesn't mess with Weatherhold and Mason Wynn and what they got going there. But Billy Carlson has 70 grade fielding, a 65 graded arm, also only 17. So he's on a completely different timeline. And maybe he does have some Connor Griffin in him. And when you have that much athleticism, maybe you try him in center field a couple times, see what happens. I don't think this is a Mason Wynn replacement. I think this is just trying to find the most value possible. And I did like what you said about Eli Willits. We'll wait a little bit, though, to talk about him. But Billy Carlson is the most intriguing high school bat that I like.
Second batter for Chase Burns, strikeout. So he's 2 for 2 so far in his debut. Now facing Judge, which is going to be interesting. My number 5 pick with the St. Louis Cardinals, I have him taking Jamie Arnold and dumb rushing him up to the podium as quick as they possibly can after the Colorado Rockies don't take him. Seems like a pretty sure arm. Comparisons to Chris Sale, I don't really know if I love that. I think he's a bit different, although I said yesterday Jeffrey Springs, but that doesn't really make sense either as well too. I like his changeup a bit more than what Pipeline likes it, but it's an interesting slot. It's a fun release, not like super size imposing. I think him and Kid Anderson and the pitchers this year in general kind of make that up, where they're not like 6'5", 100 throwing, right-handers. They're some crafty lefties, and we've talked about crafty a couple times. I know you like that word as you pointed to me there, but Jamie Arnold was fun, and I think he goes 5 as Chase Burns just struck out Aaron Judge. So he strikes out the side in his first big league start. But on to number 6 with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
At number 6, I'm going Avia Arquette, shortstop, Oregon State. A physical specimen, playing shortstop at 6'4". I think he could learn a lot from O'Neal Cruz. They just need a lot of bats over there in Pittsburgh. That was my opinion, so I went with the best college player available. I think that's going to be Arquette. And, I mean, we've already seen O'Neal Cruz move to the outfield, so I don't think anyone's in jeopardy of getting blocked there.
Yeah, I'm going Arquette as well, too, for the Pittsburgh Pirates at 6. I think he's the best position player available at that point. I think he's probably my number 2 guy if I were to go big board, just behind Ethan Holiday as far as position players go. Power's legit. The defense is legit. The hit tool, maybe, something you could be curious as far as big league pitching goes, but you could be curious with pretty much anyone when it comes down to it, except for Jacob Wilson. I think he's as good as a shortstop is as far as coming out of college this year. Maybe not as good as the shortstops next year, but I think Arquette will be a guy who could be an all-star when it's all said and done in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Now on to number 7 with the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, with Miami, here's where I went Eli Willits, shortstop out of Fort Cobb, Braxton, Oklahoma. And what I said here was when you have no direction, you take a 17-year-old, exactly like you said with Colorado. And that's what I'm feeling here because we don't really know yet. But Willits does have a dad who played in the bigs. He taught him how to switch hit at a young age. This could be Tommy Edman right here if he turns into an elite utility type player, but we just don't know if this guy's going to hit for power at all. He's so young.
Number 7 for the Marlins is where I have Billy Carson going, shortstop from Corona, California, same school as Seth Hernandez, like you said, and as well as Abel, the
third base,
the Dodgers third base coach. His son goes to that school as well too. He will get drafted pretty high this year as well too if he's not going. I saw Billy Carson pitch and on some TikToks this year. He's pretty interesting to watch as just a player in whole. His defense looks really sure. The offense is a bit less. We're not sure, but only 18 years old, born in 2006, which is crazy to think about. And obviously has some room to grow as well too, just physically. But But I like the Marlins getting in on this and having a chance to have a long-term prospect in Billy Carson pan out and 3 or 4 years from now. Number 8.
Number 8 it is Toronto, and I think they could shake things up here. I'm going Vahiva Aloy. Is it like the V because he's Hawaiian? Vahiva?
It could be.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All right. Anyways, that's the shortstop from Arkansas who just won the Golden Spikes. And usually if you win that award, you get a bit of a boost here. So I'm not saying he's my number 8 guy on the board, but he's really smart. He's got a lot of power. He started at Sac State, which is cool. So I think Toronto could use a guy like this, potentially replacing Bo Bichette. I see little Willie Adames. We'll see if he can play every day, though, just like him.
Number 8 for the Toronto Blue Jays, I have him going with another lefty and Liam Doyle. This guy's a bit different than Cade Anderson and Jamie Arnold. It's the fastball. You know what's coming, and everything else is kind of in question. But the fastball is very much legit. It's a low slot. He throws it with great ride. Obviously, with the college balls, it's a bit different than what we see with the minor league balls and even the major league balls. But 6'2", 220, lively arm. Definitely some surgery risk in the long term, but who doesn't have that risk in baseball nowadays? I think he's got a very legitimate chance to be an ace, especially if he can develop another pitch besides the fastball to be an out pitch, because right now it's really the fastball. And I mean, the fastball is just, if you have one pitch, it's not an up in the big leagues. Number 9 with the Cincinnati Reds.
At 9, I'm giving Cincinnati Jace God dang, I practiced it so many times. Laviolette.
There we go.
Laviolette, the outfielder from Texas A&M. I had joked with you earlier this week about him reminding me of Brandon Moss, but I do think Cincinnati is one of those teams that could take a shot at a power bat. They just drafted Lauder and Burns is helping my case right now. He looks pretty good, that maybe they don't need to take another one in the top 10. And there's always that one team every year that when they make their pick, it makes you think like, hey guys, I think you have last year's board. Like, this guy's not ranked in the top 10 anymore. So I still think he's a very intriguing prospect, 6'6" with a lot of power. Someone's got to make that mistake, though, and I'm going to say Cincinnati does.
Cincinnati, I have them taking Kason Cunningham out of Johnson, Texas, high school shortstop / second baseman. I definitely think long-term it's a second baseman thing for them, especially in Cincinnati, depending on how, Ellie De La Cruz is from 4 years from now, whether he's even still on the Reds. But not a ton of power, but the hit tool's fun. The run, fielding's fun as well, too. Left-handed bats. Definitely seems to be a guy that would be sticking at second base for me. I think, 20 stolen bases, hit 280, maybe 10 to 15 homers is probably what you get from this guy. And you'd be okay with it because he's going to play good defense as well, too. I like Kason Cunningham. I'm not, the biggest guy as time has gone on and taking the sub 6 foot high school infielder. Not really my thing, but I think it works out well here for pretty much every other tool except for the power. Number 10 with the White Sox.
Yeah, at this stage in the draft, I'm trying to find any kind of fit I could potentially see, especially when it comes to a college player. So I have Liam Doyle going to the White Sox. It's a roller coaster watching Liam Doyle pitch. And sometimes you see Blake Snell. Other times he's throwing a tantrum on the mound. Either way, that sounds right up Chicago's alley, especially being a lefty if they don't like the high school bats. I think this would be perfect.
Number 10 is where I have Kyson Witherspoon, the Oklahoma right-handed pitcher, going. You said the one time that you watched him, he got shelled, but he's still a fun arm. The fastball gets up to 99. An interesting slider cutter type pitch that he has that he'll throw in 2 different shapes, and then an okay curveball with a pretty shitty changeup. But the fastball looks good. It's 6'2", 206, so maybe not the biggest guy in terms of MLB pitchers. I think the MLB average in height for pitchers is like 6'4" or something like that. But fun arm and a good athlete, it looks like, as well, too, at the mound. Next up, 11, is where we have the A's. It's always a fun pick when you're picking for your own team. Who do you have the A's taking here?
So at 11 with the A's, I actually did give them Kyson Witherspoon. the righty from Oklahoma. And I'll get into a couple things you mentioned I covered, so don't worry about that. I'm not going to complain about a bat here. You know, they could have the opportunity to take whichever outfielder, first base, third base that they want in the entire draft. But there's a pretty big hole in the future rotation here. And I went back and watched this guy some more last night, and I think he actually is a fit. He's like the first round version of Mitch Spence. He's got the 60 grade cutter, a hard slider to go along with 99. And if there's an actual starting pitcher available, and I think at least Tyler Bremner should be available at the minimum, I think they got to go for it.
Number 11 pick here for the A's, and I have him taken Wahiwa Aloy. I think it'd be a fun one. I don't think his bat is as quickly as sure as a Jacob Wilson or Nick Kurtz, where we see him in the big leagues within 365 days. It could be, a 2-year project with him. Does he stick at shortstop? Probably not, Jacob Wilson. So my guess would he goes to third base, be in that 6'2", 200 frame instead of going to second. I like the arm a bit better from there as well too. A bit more chase than what you would like for a guy that you're taking here, but he's got room to grow. He's got proven pedigree of being able to hit at the biggest stage as well too, which matters. And I think it'd be a fun pick for the A's, who seem to like to take college bats who impressed their most recent year in the league. On to number 12 with the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, at 12 with Texas, I'm going to go with Ike Irish, the outfielder / catcher from Auburn. I don't know if he sticks at catcher, but this is a team that has taken so much pitching recently. I think they can afford to take this pick because Ike Irish is such a fun guy to watch. He's really quick, hits for good contact. There were some rumors that he can't hit with wood bats, but there's also some rumors that he could go into the top 10 in this draft. So I'm going to say that he ends up somewhere in the middle.
Number 12 for the Texas Rangers is where I have JoJo Parker going. This guy's been sliding up a lot of boards. It's a shortstop out of Purvis, Mississippi, committed to Mississippi State. 6'2", 200 pounds, left-handed bat, only 18 years old, of course. In high school, at this point, the college guys or the high school guys, we don't know too much about, just being from an outsider perspective. But he seems to be a pretty sure guy on all, 5 tools. Maybe not the best in anything, but still looks to be solid in all those, especially the hit tool. Power, you're maybe looking at 15 to 20 homers as well too. Probably a longer term guy as well, but maybe a bit quicker than what we see from Billy Carson. I think that's an upside to him as well too. Maybe more big league ready than that, but obviously still, a 3-4 year project for a shortstop that you're taking out of high school. On to 13.
Yeah, San Francisco here at 13. I'm going to finally do it. Ty Bremner, UCSB. Verlander and Ray aren't going to pitch forever. I think that they could try to fast track a college starter up to the bigs as quickly as they can. I see a little Jay Flair in your boy. And I just don't think you can go wrong with a college starter these days. So I think a lot of them are going to fly off the board.
Number 13 with the San Francisco Giants is where I have been taking high school shortstop Steele Hall out of Hewitt-Trussville, Alabama. Interesting prospect here because I think you look at the tools and they don't pop out to you, except for the run. Of course, the speed's interesting. And I think when you look at the Giants and something that they've fallen in love with this past year of Jung-Hoo Lee is just the ball player aspect of him. Maybe he's not going to be a guy who hits 30 homers and who does the most flashy things for you, but he's going to play the game the right way. And I think Steele Hall has that in him, where it might take a bit because he is only 17, 6 foot, 180 pounds. So again, another guy that might take 5 to 6 years to actually get in the big leagues. Good thing they signed a shortstop for 6 years. I think Steele Hall could be that. Will he be a guy who's hitting 30 homers? Probably not. But if you get above average defense with 30 to 40 stolen bases, and 10 homers a year, hitting 285, I think you would like that. It's kind of like I wanted to say Volpe, but maybe I guess I'll go Volpe as of right now.
Okay.
On to 14 with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, Tampa Bay is always fun. And since I just had a crazy run of college players, there's a couple still available. So I'm going to go with Case Cunningham, infielder out of Johnson, Texas, who you mentioned earlier, because Tampa Bay seems to be enamored with speed these days. So I think that Cunningham probably had some conversations with them after running really well at the combine. And I can see why people have CJ Abrams compared to him. Obviously, like you mentioned, some guys aren't quite ready until they're about 25, kind of like Tamar Johnson. Tamar Johnson had a major rise up before the draft, but 14 isn't bad either for a high school player. I might as well mention it now. Some of the other guys like JoJo Parker, I just didn't end up fitting them into the 15, but they could easily go into the top 10.
Another high school shortstop here for me at number 14, where the Tampa Bay Rays go with Daniel Pierce out of Mill Creek, Georgia. Again, only 18 years old, hits right-handed, throws right-handed, of course. 6 foot 185, so not the most imposing physical figure, but pretty well-rounded for a high school guy. He has good pedigree when it comes to hitting top-tier pitching, whether that be at showcases or in his high school career as well, too. Again, it's a high school shortstop, so it's not like, we've seen tons of game film on this guy and we know exactly what it is, but I think he's a guy that the Rays would like. He kind of reminds me, outside of everything but the bat, and Taylor Walls a little bit.
Okay.
Not a switch hitter, of course, but good speed, good arm, good fielding. But the bat seems to be a little bit better than Taylor Walls, and obviously would need to be that for them to be taking him at 14. Another last pick that we'll do with number 15.
At 15, it's the Boston Red Sox, and I actually saw this on a mock draft, and I loved it, so I'm going to steal it. It's Gage Wood from Arkansas. I think this is perfect. This farm system is so good they can afford to take a risk on a guy who just struck out 19 guys in a game in Omaha, and pitching depth is like the last thing they need to finish this rebuild.
My number 15 spot is a guy that the Red Sox actually took earlier in 2022 with the 399th pick. It's Gavin Kylan from Tennessee, second baseman, hits left-handed, throws righty, of course, little undersized, 5'11", 187. Put balls out in Tennessee, but that's not saying much because that ballpark's pretty shallow. But a good bat and solid around the edges as well, too. Good hand-eye coordination is what the pipeline thing says. Quick left-handed swing and feel for the barrel. I don't think he's the guy who's going to give you 30 homers, of course, but if he gets 15 to 20 and hits 280, 290 at second base, plays good defense, I think he'll take it. So Gavin Kylan, I don't know how to say it, but we'll find that out eventually.
Yep.
I have him going number 15.
Okay.
So no more picks left. But is there any prospects that you were going through this prospect process and you're like, oh damn, that's an interesting name, or anybody that you want to talk about before we get into the next part?
I'll pull up my board right now. Definitely Cruz Schoolcraft is going to be one of those guys. Massive 6'8" lefty from Oregon. I think that Tony Clark could be his comparison here if he sticks at first base. And then, of course, the floor would be like a left-handed Sean Jelly if he can't hit. But I think 6'8" with really good contact skills is something we haven't, maybe not have seen since the 80s in Tony Clark. So I thought that was a guy to watch out for, even though he probably won't go in the top 10.
Yeah. A couple guys I liked. I'll start off with Merrick Houston, shortstop out of Wake Forest. He's been a guy who I've been kind of interested in for the past few years. One of the best gloves out of any shortstop in the draft. I think he's got a chance to go pretty high. And then Andrew Fisher, another Tennessee guy. He was a guy I was interested in watching their highlights throughout the year. Good power. Maybe not the greatest, run, field, stuff like that, but probably a first or third baseman, maybe a DH corner outfielder. But I think the bat's got a potential to be 30 homers or so.
Okay.
And that brings us into the second half, which we switch drafts and go to the NBA.
Yeah, so the NBA draft is tomorrow. I have experimented with some mock drafts. I thought about it. I ended up realizing there's probably going to be 14 trades tomorrow night, so I'm not going to do another mock. But I want to go through around maybe 10 guys on my big board, talk about who I have them compared to, what makes them special. So because it's a super loaded class, and I'm excited for tomorrow, even though the Warriors don't have a pick in the top 30. Well, we'll start that off with Cooper Flagg, the 6'9" forward from Duke. And defense is what makes this guy special. Some people say Scottie Pippen. I'm more so AK-47. I think if they worry about the offense, maybe with Kyrie gone, he could start the rise to Jason Tatum level. I just think he's going to be a great all-around 6'9" team player that could run the point if he needs to, or post up too, if Kyrie's running the show. Interesting thing about this draft, number 2, Dylan Harper, 6'6" guard out of Rutgers. This guy goes number 1 in any other draft, but of course Cooper Flagg reclassifies. He comes out a year early. Dylan Harper's stuck at 2, but he's the first main ball handler we've seen since Cade Cunningham. There's a lot of Devin Booker, a lot of, at the worst, the floor, Kobe White. This guy's just going to go get buckets at 6'6" and run the show. So another reason why I didn't do the mock draft. Number 2, San Antonio, seems like he has to go number 2. He's by far the second best player. But San Antonio may trade this pick, and things get really weird when you do trades in your, especially NBA mock draft. My number 3 guy, that's VJ Edgecombe, 6'5" guard from Baylor. He's a real throwback. All right. 2-way star potential and athleticism. He reminds me so much of Victor Oladipo. I think he could get up even better than that, though. Number 4, it's maybe the most controversial guy in this draft class. It's Ace Bailey, 6'8" forward out of Rutgers. Freak athlete, could be lethal from mid-range. But you got to be worried about the floor, man. It's Paul George, right? If he gets that shot down. And then there's Imani Bates. There's a guy who's just not physical enough to play in the league. So that's why there's some question marks. And him not showing up to workouts is tough. We could see this guy falling, outside the top 5. A guy who won't be falling because he's had great workouts, apparently, is Con Knipple, 6'7", out of Duke, wing player. He's a sharpshooter, but he's also got ball handling experience. If you remember when number 1, Cooper Flagg, went down, this guy ran the show. He ran the pick and roll for Duke. So there's a lot of Gordon Hayward in his game. Number 6 is Trey Johnson, 6'6" guard out of Texas. Another kind of throwback, just a straight up bucket getter. I had Latrell Sprewell mixed with Alec Burks. He's going to be the number 2 option on a potentially great team. But maybe he needs a year like our guy from Houston who just got traded, Jalen Green, to figure out the confidence in his jump shot. Now we get into the next tier of prospects. They could go in any order here, honestly, but guy I have next is Derek Queen. 6'9" center from Maryland, big, mean, great footwork, and the touch of the Embiid type guy. But he might be playing in the wrong era. If he can't shoot, it'll be Zach Randolph, which there's nothing wrong with that. He'll go to a couple all-star games, score 20 points a game. But if he really wants to get to Paolo Banchero level, you got to, get better at ball handling and shooting the 3 ball. Number 8, Jeremiah Fears, a 6'4" guard out of Oklahoma. Another guy who is a very smart point guard. He just has inconsistent shooting. So that's the ceiling and the floor right there. Where you could see a Jamal Murray to a great center, or he could just be Brandon Pajemski, just out there trying to make the hustle plays if he can't shoot. We'll see. We'll see how consistent he gets. Number 9, one of my favorite players in the class, Kasparas Yakajunas, 6'6" shooting guard from Illinois. I know you're laughing at me, but my comparison for him is Goran Dragic. I think he's a great off-ball scoring guard. He's not going to be your number 1. He's not going to get drafted in the top 5, but another guy who could score 20 points a game because he did a lot for that Illinois team in the tournament. I'll get to my top 12, and then we'll pause after that. Number 10, I have Igor Demin, 6'9" guard out of BYU. Pretty much just a skeleton-looking playmaker. I have Josh Giddey. He came into college trying to be a great shooter, and it didn't really work. So he's got a lot to work on. But 6'9" is kind of ridiculous potential for a perimeter defender. Number 11, it's our first real center of the draft here. Kaman Malawak, 7'2" center from Duke. Just a rim protector. Pretty much he can put it back. Little Derek Lively in there. If he can't move, then he's Luke Cornett. But hey, if you're taking a guy at 12 who comes out and plays solid defense for 18 minutes, it's not the end of the world. But that's why I have him ranked a little lower than like 5, like some sites have him. And then number 12, the last guy I wanted to talk about, Colin Murray Broyles, 6'7", power forward, South Carolina, because he's the complete Draymond Green build. I have him compared to Julius Randle, 6'7", 250. This guy can guard 1 through 5 in the lineup. It's another situation. Let's see how much he actually can do on offense, because you don't want to draft Kevin Knox. You got to make sure he can shoot a little bit. But if he's Julius Randle, then you got yourself a steal, man. So there's my top 12. I'm really excited, especially for the lottery. And then even going down like into the 30s, you have Walter Clayton Jr., 4-year guy. Guys like that always work, right? Kemba Walker. I mean, even Jordan Clarkson, right? Even if you're getting like the 6th man of the year, that's still a win. So I'm real excited for this draft class. And that's why I didn't do a mock draft, because things would get way too confusing.
Yeah, it'll be a pick owned by Portland that was in Philly and then also in San Antonio, and somehow OKC now has it or something like that. And now
and then they traded again on draft night after he puts the hat on.
Yeah. Yeah, the hats are always confusing in the NBA draft. But we'll get into our layups bowl predictions before we get out of here. Last thing we'll talk about. Last week I had Boston over Seattle on Wednesday. That was Garrett Crochet's start. And it did happen for them. So that goes green for me. Skylar had OKC over Indiana in 6. Of course, didn't go 6. OKC still gets the win. But it goes red because it wasn't in 6 games, unfortunately. This week I have Milwaukee over Pittsburgh on Wednesday. That is a fun start tomorrow. Mizorowski versus Paul Skeens. I think both teams kind of get blanked by the starters, although once it gets to the bullpen with Pittsburgh, we know that they somehow just always seem to choke when Paul Skeens is on the mound and also never score any runs. So I have Milwaukee getting a win in this one for something that they should probably have pretty good odds to bet on with.
Yeah. My layup's going to be some more baseball. Seattle over Texas on Friday night. Logan Gilbert's back, and he's facing Kumar Rocker. Seattle's on fire, 7 wins out of 10. Texas is not. They're kind of slumping right now. Seattle's trying to get back to first place. I got them winning a big one on Friday with Logan Gilbert.
Bold predictions. Last week, I had Milwaukee over Chicago Cubs. You're going to have to wait a couple months for that one because it got postponed. So that's unfortunate. Part of like 3 or 4 games that got postponed that day. Skylar at San Diego sweeps Kansas City. I'm not sure how that series ended out. How did it?
2 out of 3, and Jason Adam blew a save on the one loss. Yeah.
Tough.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought San Diego won, but still. This week, I have Washington over San Diego on tomorrow. That is Mackenzie Gore start against his former team. There's not a named starter yet for the Padres. The Nationals just kicked the shit out of them last night. They've been playing some decent ball over the past 2 games. I know they just dealt with the 11-game losing streak that ended this past week. But James Wood's playing like an MVP. C.J. Abrams is hot. Mackenzie Gore has been good all year. I think this could be a day that, already has looked like a terrible trade for the Padres and is obviously a loss for them. But could really be the culmination of all these different things coming together for a really shitty day for the Padres.
I don't disagree with you for that series, but I'm still going to give San Diego another chance. I got them beating Cincinnati on Saturday. And, that's Andrew Abbott. That's a risky guy to bet against. He's been nearly unhittable. But Randy Vasquez on the bump for San Diego. It seems like the only team he's lost to this season has been the Dodgers, which is fair at the minimum to say. So let's say San Diego wins a really close one, and hopefully the bullpen doesn't blow it for me this time.
Yeah, that's going to do it, though. For episode 250, the quarter, we said century, millennium, definitely not decade, but next episode 251, back into power rankings. We'll know the NBA draft at that point. It'll be interesting. Maybe some more rumblings in the MLB trade rumors stuff. Definitely some more rumblings in the NBA trade rumors and maybe completed trades at that point. I don't really know when those other trades will become official. Aaron Rodgers will probably do something stupid within this next week.
I got to say, it's relieving just not having to listen to that. Just turn off the phone when you see it. Like, oh, thank God he's gone.
That's fair. I saw he's gone after this year, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting, but maybe about time. Anyways, Skylar, you can count anything. We will see you guys next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, and hopefully the Warriors will have their Jonathan Kuminga replacement with pick 68 or whatever and try to sell him to us.
Yeah. And I'll talk about how good or bad the Bear was.
Yeah, that's right. The Bear. Season 4, baby.
Yeah,
Let's go.
exactly. Fuck.
All right, cousin. I'll see you next week.
See ya.